Aurelie, thank you so much for being here today. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Wonderful. So everyone, thank you for watching. Thank you to those who are watching live and for those who are watching the recorded version. Today we have a dear friend of mine, Aurelie. Actually, Aurelie, I never pronounced your last name in front of you. Is it Cormier, Cormier?
Cormier.
Cormier. Yep. Okay, Cormier. So Aurelie has her RN. She has an MS and ANPBC. She's been working as an oncology nurse or nurse practitioner and or a clinical nurse specialist for 41 years. She received her Bachelor of Science in Nursing, her Master's in Rehabilitation Oncology, both from Boston University, and a Postmaster's Nurse Practitioner certificate from UMass Worcester with a subspecialty in cancer prevention and control. She's worked at some of the finest hospitals in the country, most recently at Mass General Hospital for 13 years. Massachusetts General Hospital. Used to saying that as a former resident of Boston. Her special areas of interest are cancer prevention, symptom management, survivorship, and women's health. She's also a proud mother of her 21-year-old daughter.
Now 22.
Now 22. Wonderful. Aurelie has done a considerable amount of writing, lecturing, and staff and patient education on a local as well as national level. She recently completed an article entitled Cancer Prevention Through the Precautionary Principle, which is being published in the December 2019 issue of the Clinical Journal of Oncology Nursing. She's a contributing author for the book Clinical Manual for the Oncology Advanced Practice Nurse, 2nd edition, and has written a chapter for the book Multimodal Therapy in Oncology Nursing. She's presented several workshops on mindful conception, pregnancy, and parenting at the Partners in Perinatal Health Conference, at the Pioneers Conference, at the Wellesley Sustainability Festival, and most recently presented a workshop on clean living and detoxing at the Virginia Thurston Healing Garden in Harvard, Massachusetts. Aurelie's instincts and passions have always been in the area of prevention and survivorship. It is towards this end that she originally launched her cancer prevention business, Aurelie Cormier's Wellness Parenting, to give every parent and child a chance at a healthy lifestyle. So quite the impressive resume, Aurelie. It's really awesome to have you with us and sharing your expertise and your experience with us. And so I would like to start with your work at many inpatient hospitals over the years. Most recently, Massachusetts General Hospital. You worked there as a clinical oncology nurse, clinical nurse specialist, or nurse practitioner for 41 years. What inspired you, Aurelie, to become a nurse, and how has that experience been for you?
Well, I had several wonderful mentors, and I feel really grateful to one of my teachers in high school who I wanted to be a teacher, and she said, Aurelie, I think you love science. I think you should think about nursing. So I was like, all right, she's smart. I think I'll do it. And, became a nurse. And initially, it took me about 7 years to go from it being a job to it being my professional career. But once I did, I just felt so inspired by the people around me to be a nurse, I had this thirst for learning as much as I could. I was, at the time I was working at Beth Israel, had a fantastic nurse manager who really helped everyone to really maximize the things that they were interested in, but they also had talents in. And so I had several patients who had breast cancer at the time. And, both were very young. One was 28 and was a nurse in an ICU, and the other one was 28 and was a physical therapist. And I just learned so much from them. I was so inspired by them that I went back to graduate school. And, from there, it really gave me an understanding of how hard it is to be sick. And, I will say that as a young person, when I was a toddler, my uncle was, he was only 19 at the time, but he was diagnosed with a stricture of the aorta, had to have open heart surgery, and this was 1958. So it was the early years of open heart surgery, and luckily my grandfather worked at the State House in Boston and found one of the best surgeons at Children's Hospital. He had the surgery, very successful, but in those days it took a year to recover. So my parents and I lived with my grandparents. And so when he came home from the hospital and was recovering, they gave him very strict instructions about what he needed to do to recover from this. Our whole family went on a healthy heart lifestyle. We had to take him out every day for a year to walk. And so as I was learning to walk, he was learning to walk again. And even though I don't remember those times, I think it got imprinted into my body because prevention is as natural to me as breathing.
Mhm.
So even though I was taking care of these really sick people and I was watching how hard it was for them to be sick and how much work it was for them to recover and how much research we were doing on curing cancers or treating them, in the back of my mind, I always thought to myself, well, what about prevention? Like, what are we doing to try to prevent these
Mhm.
cancers? So I felt, because I've worked at some of the finest hospitals in the country, I feel really blessed to have, you know, worked with people who are super smart, super dedicated, doing everything in their power to try to help cure cancer or treat cancer. And yet, every time we would find, the next best cure, it seemed like something else would come along.
Mm.
And that thought just kept coming to me. What are we doing to prevent them? In a, and so in 1995, when I was the clinical specialist for women's health down at Stanford Hospital in Stamford, Connecticut, I was but it was a little bit of a misnomer to say that I was the clinical specialist for women's health, because half of my role was breast cancer, the other half was GYN cancer. And I had multiple different roles within that name. But one of my roles was to co-lead the breast cancer support group and the GYN cancer support group. And so in 1995, we had started one of those support group, the breast cancer support group. About 25 women came twice a month to the group. It was a very active group, but I'll never forget, we were sitting around in a circle one night and this young woman started out the meeting. She looked around the room and she said, "Look at all the young faces in this room. There's got to be something in the environment. Why do we all have breast cancer?"
Mm.
And at the time, we didn't tell, we didn't really know, and we still don't know why people develop breast cancer. We have associations, we have some ideas. There's a lot of research that's gone into it. But we never talked about the environment. And so I went home that night and I thought a lot about it. And then I thought to myself, I think she's on to something that we've never thought about in the healthcare community. So it put me on a quest, and I started studying as much as I can and reading papers. And I went back to graduate school to get my nurse practitioner and ended up going to UMass Worcester, where they had a specialty in cancer prevention and control. And from in that program, I had to design my own cancer prevention clinic or program,
Wow.
which I did, and then finally published my paper last year. And
Wow. Wow.
when I published my paper, all the research that I did to put that together, what I found out is there are things in the environment that are impacting on our health. And there are things that we could be doing, or the best time to actually prevent cancer is early in life. It's during pregnancy, it's in young childhood, it's in
Mm.
adolescence, when the body is growing and changing quickly. The cells are dividing rapidly. They're more prone to mutation. So if we could focus in on those areas, there are strategies to help prevent cancers or give people a better chance of living a longer, healthier, more abundant life. And so that's where it all, those were some of my experiences over my nursing career that led me to where I am today. Because as I said, my passion has always been in prevention, and it is as natural to me as breathing. So it's like, oh, I love what I'm doing now.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you always had a passion for prevention, even while you were working more on the treatment or management side of
Right.
disease.
Right.
And so how did you transition from one to another, the treatment to prevention?
Yeah. So, well, one of the things is another mentor I had over the years was a doctor named Howard Koh, and I actually took my first course with him when I was getting my graduate degree at BU, and decided to take some courses at the BU School of Public Health. And he and this doctor named Marianne Prout taught a course on cancer prevention. And it was one of my favorite courses ever. I loved it. And he really became my mentor over the years. But he had at one time been the commissioner for public health in the state of Massachusetts, then went on to be the assistant commissioner for health and human services under the Obama administration.
Wow.
And he told me that, in terms of prevention, you always have to kind of stay in the treatment end, even when you're working on the prevention end. So I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to transition, and then, but I stayed in treatment, obviously, for much longer than I thought I was going to. And then a couple of years ago, decided I would start taking some courses to help with my business, because I had started my entrepreneurial business in 2011. But at that time, I didn't know very much about business. So I continued treating people while I set up my business, and started taking courses a couple of years ago and learning how to write a business plan, write a marketing plan. I took a program over the last 2 years or a year and a half on developing the mindset of how you can develop your dream career. And with a woman named Mary Morrissey, the Dream Builder program and Brave Thinking Masters, excellent program, absolutely loved it. And it helped me to reset my thinking, so that I had the courage to go out and be my own CEO, I guess.
Yeah.
And then in this, over a year ago, I took a course at Babson for entrepreneurs, and got a lot of experience through that course to give me the courage to finally, launch my business full time. And I'll tell you, for anybody out there who's ever thought of having their own business, it was a leap of faith. It was, well, Bailey, it's you have to muster all that courage inside, because there is you're excited but you're afraid at the same time. And I could, the fear would well up in me, and then I'd say, all right, we have to stay positive. We just have the mindset. We just stay focused. Think about what your dream career is, your dream life, and just keep moving in that direction. And so finally, a year ago, I went out and launched my business full time. And it was like I had to put the parachute on, take a deep breath, and jump. And I jumped, and I have never looked back. It's been the best thing I've ever done in my life. I love it.
Oh, that's so great. I'm so happy for you, Aurelie.
Yeah.
That's the best feeling to know.
It is the best feeling. And, another thing that I've really enjoyed incorporating into it is not only the prevention part, because prevention, is has been my passion throughout my whole life. But then in working with so many of my patients, and I know that you understand this too, is the survivorship part. Is,
Mhm.
you know, in working with so many people over the years, I have learned some of those steps to healing, and really have loved helping my patients to heal. And you know, and that's why it was just so inspiring to me when I heard your story, because I'm like, go Bailey. You know, and you know, watching the Radical Remission series and the 10 factors that have helped people to overcome their medical illnesses or their cancer illnesses and heal themselves. You know, it's so that's another aspect of my business that I really enjoy.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, based on your work, are
Yep.
there what strategies can people, or let's, can you talk about the amount of power that people have in being able to prevent cancer and other diseases? Like what amount is based in diet and lifestyle? What amount is based, you know, in things outside of our control, and the environment, as
Yeah.
I know you can talk
Right.
about that.
Well, one of the things that we've learned over the years, and it's this whole field of epigenetics that is newer, that people are hearing about now. And Christina, I don't know if you've ever done anything with epigenetics, but um, if we were really going to prevent disease, we needed to start with our grandparents, because a lot of what has happened, what's happening in our own lives, some of that is influenced by things that our grandparents, you know, the lifestyles they had, or the things that they were exposed to. And obviously, we don't have any control of what happened to our grandparents. If they were in, say, World War One, World War Two, or exposed to um, nitrogen mustard, if they were exposed to radiation, or if they were in Vietnam or exposed to Agent Orange, there is nothing we can do about that. The next step would be our parents, because when we were in our mother's womb, there were things that we were exposed to that also influence our health today, but we don't have any control over that either. And even our growing up, there's things that maybe we did when we were, you know, young children, or maybe when we were teenagers, that then also impacts our health today. But we can't do anything about what happened in the past. All we can do is what we do today, we have today
Amen.
as a gift, and then going forward. And so what we do have control over are the what I call the 5 pillars of good health, which is love, loving ourselves, you know, loving our children, being in a loving community, or having positive relationships. And you would think that would be a given in this life, but I can tell you from the work with my patients over the years, that's not always a given. That there are things that, you know, I've seen, you know, people maybe who had very difficult childhoods, and maybe were not treated very well by their parents, and then they take on some of those things, and, you know, do things that hurt their bodies. And so there's that aspect. Or being in a community of supportive people is so important, and not everybody is in a supportive community. So, um, you know, that is another aspect that we might need to assess and make choices in our life. If, say, we do have an issue with alcoholism, are we going to stay with people that are alcoholic, and then we keep going down that path? Um, so that's one pillar. The next one is nutrition. And I would say, of many people that I have seen heal in my life, nutrition is key. And and but nutrition is a very complicated subject. It's not just, are we eating the right foods, but how is our society, how are the companies, how are the EPA, how are they all influencing the food that we get and the choices that we have. I know myself, I live in a really nice community. I don't have to go very far. It's like no more than 7 minutes, and I can get to a Whole Foods with really good food. But there are a lot of people that live, and many of them are, African American or Hispanic, who live in very poor communities. Or Native Americans too. They live in food deserts. They don't have a choice of healthy food. So how do we make how do we make healthy food accessible to them? The pesticides that are sprayed on our food, a lot of us don't know if those pesticides are sprayed on the food or not. We look at an apple in the store, or we look at, kale in the store. We have no idea what's been put on that or the environment that it's grown in, and then we're putting that in our bodies. So there's more than just the foods that we choose. It's also, what are the companies, what are the our political will to provide good, healthy, and equally just food in many communities. And then the other thing is exercise. The choice of whether we, and a lot of times it's finding something fun. What is it that just you are passionate about and you feel really good about? And I know for me, if somebody told me to go to the gym and work with weights all day long, and that would not that would not excite me. But if I can get out in nature and I can run, like I go to Concord to the Battle Road where the British retreated from the Old North Bridge, and I'm on a dirt path and I hear the birds singing, and there's lots of trees and nature and history. I love it. I get so excited and passionate about that. So 20 to 30 minutes is all we need every day, but it does become something that, we, first we make the choice, but that finding what it is we are passionate about, what is it that excites us and brings us joy in our life. Another is serenity, finding our bliss. What is it that helps us to reduce the stress in our life? And if I knew on New Year's Eve that 2020 would be the most chaotic, turbulent time, the pandemic was going to visit us for this time, and how many people would get sick and die and would be wearing masks and social distancing, and I wouldn't have believed it if anybody told me. But boy, it has been such a surprise. And yet there's so many good lessons for us to learn, right? Everything that happens in our life, whether positive or negative, there's always a positive message for us. And I think one of the messages is how we can be more connected to our families, how we can slow our lives down, how we can do what is important in life, our health, our family, our friends. There's nothing more important than that. And how we need to be taking better care of Mother Earth and the animals and the climate, because this is how this all started, is we weren't really focusing in on those things, and then this virus spread from animals to humans, and now we have this global pandemic that we're dealing with. So that, incorporating serenity, peace, calm, joy, happiness in our lives is so important. It helps our immune system, it helps keep our body more balanced, and whichever way that we enjoy, whether that's mindfulness meditation or yoga or qigong. I know I've really enjoyed qigong. I know from my mom, she wouldn't do any of those things, but for her, what she uses is prayer, and she does that every day, and that keeps her centered, and it keeps her grounded, and it brings her peace in her life. And so that is such a key element of building good health. and keeping our bodies stronger and more resilient in the face of whatever challenges come in our life.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah, I
what?
was just gonna say, I think that's like the one of the things that's helped keep me alive is my faith in finding, having an increased ability to find serenity in stressful situations.
Yep.
So I totally agree with that and everything else that you've said so far.
Yeah.
But
And then
but you're gonna go on to the next one.
yeah,
The
and then the
one.
fifth pillar I have found to be really important is, in my work with patients over the years, is spirituality. I have oftentimes have asked my patients, when they were really, really sick, I would say, what is it you would love to be doing in your life? And some people have said to me, oh, they would love to be able to be spending more time with their grandchildren, or there's a foundation that they've been very involved in, and they really want to, contribute to that foundation to help other, like say, save the children, and they want to help with that organization, or um, or just having a purpose in life, having that sense of what is it your soul came here to accomplish, and that connection to spirit, to God, to the universe is so important. When people have said to me, oh, I don't know, I haven't really thought about it much, that gives me a clue as to their overall prognosis, because I have found that people who have the strongest will to live, have the strongest purpose in life, have that strong connection to why they're here and what they want to do in their life, those are the ones that tend to survive better. So spirituality and our connection to God, to spirit, to our soul purpose in this life is so important. And that is, there's a wonderful book, The 10 Principles of Spiritual Parenting by Mimi Doe, that I found incredibly helpful when my daughter was younger. And she has outlined many things that you can do as a family together and help your children to connect to God, help with them understanding who God is in their life. And one of the things I really loved when she explained, to her own children, she said, you can explain this to your kids to help them understand who God is, especially when they're little and they're trying to, like, God, who's God? I don't see God. But she said, you can show them a flashlight and then show them the batteries inside the flashlight, and then turn the flashlight on and the light comes on with the batteries. You take the batteries out, you try to turn the flashlight on, it won't come on. So she said, God is like that. God's inside of us, and God is like that battery, that light that we can shine in the world. It's our connection to God in the world. God's like the battery inside us that brings light to us and to the world. And I love that analogy of like the flashlight, and how that is a great way to explain God to children, and how God is actually inside of them, and that connection they have. It's like an energy inside of them.
Mm.
So
Yeah, that
those
was like, yeah, I believe with my spiritual experiences and after getting healed from cancer and wanting to know, what my purpose was, because I did have a strong desire to live. And, what I thought about, was what was most easily within reach, at least, was being there for my sister. She got engaged when I was, you know, very soon after my stage 4 diagnosis, and I knew she wanted to start and have a family. And so I wanted to be there for her wedding. I wanted to be well, and I wanted to be there to be around for her kids as they grew up. And so when I, sought God and my purpose, and after accepting Jesus as my Savior and being indwelled by or receiving the Holy Spirit, that's where I get my life from. And I don't do anything really useful without God.
Yep.
So I relate to that also, that
Yeah.
concept.
And that's the beautiful part of your spirit, that is very, you can see so clearly, and that you bring to all of us. So
Well,
yeah.
only by the grace of God does any good thing come from me. You're very sweet. Thank you, Arlie.
Yeah. But those are the things that I found, because oftentimes, in my life, I've tried to think of how we can prevent cancer. And as time goes along, what I'm realizing more is, how can I help people to live a joyful, abundant life?
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
even a doctor said to me recently, well, if you are telling people you're trying to prevent cancer, you're, in their mind, they're still thinking of disease. And if they're pregnant, they have young children, that's hard for them to conceive of. So it would be a better message to say you're trying to help them to live an abundant and joyful life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because it's what I'm learning more and more. It's so important to bring the message to people where they're at. And oftentimes, unless you've had cancer or someone really close to you has had cancer, it's hard for you to conceive of what that would be like. And even with COVID today, a lot of people know COVID exists, but they may have not had an experience where either they got COVID or someone really close to them got COVID and was really sick from it. So it's hard for them to conceive of. And so so what I am realizing is how important it is to meet people where they're at. And so most people want to live a happy, joyful life.
Mhm.
And if I can bring that message to them, there's strategies that I've learned over the years from that many of my patients have taught me. And I've actually also learned from experience. I have never had cancer myself, but I have had issues with my eyes. And so I have worked at healing my eyesight, and I know that you can heal your body, and it may, if it takes time to develop a dis-ease, it will take time to heal that disease, but that's okay. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you use the strategies that work, and with time, it'll all be moving in a positive direction.
Mm. Yeah, with the hope that you can get better and you can have an abundant life. I think that's,
Mm-hmm.
that's really important.
Yeah.
So that positive belief.
Yeah.
Okay. So love, nutrition, exercise, serenity, and spirituality, those are things that people can use to prevent disease.
Yeah. That's
And
like the 5 pillars, which is where the word wellness comes from.
okay.
So I think of wellness and helping people to, have that little acronym to make it easy to remember, is winning every living day through love, nutrition, exercise, serenity, and spirituality.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Very well rounded. That's
Yeah.
great. I love that. Okay. Any additional tips on um, living those out?
Yeah. What I would say in terms of additional tips is that, we all have strengths. And so for each person, they can look at these and realize, which ones they already have strengths in that are just a natural part of how they live their life,
Mm.
and give yourself a huge pat on the back, because when you're already, like, I know you're really good with nutrition, and that is something you are dedicated to every day. And so that is something that is built into your habit of living, and yay Bailey, right? Or other people listening to this. So it may be that and when you look at radical remission and the 10 healing factors, those are also ways to prevent. Those are also ways to bring, good, abundant health into your life.
Mm.
or to keep your body as healthy as possible. So if you take those
Right.
10 factors or the 5 pillars that I talk about, and the ones that you're already doing well, great job.
Mm.
And then there may be some that you say, well, these are ones that I could work on better, and prioritize. There may be 3 out of the 10 that you need to work on better. So prioritize which one is the most important for you.
Mm.
And maybe it is, your home environment, that, because believe it or not, one of the most toxic places we live is inside our home.
Mm.
There are things that, like chlorine bleach. I didn't realize for a long time chlorine bleach is very toxic to the nervous system.
Mm.
And there are, some of the chemicals that we have in the house, whether it's the Windex or the alcohol, or the Teflon pans, which
Mhm.
have been found to impact on deformities, facial deformities in young children, and cognitive issues. Those PFAS, that is that has been found in some of the water in, I think based on the firemen and some of the work that they do, there's a chemical called PFAS that then can get into our water supply. The glyphosate that's sprayed on our food, that oftentimes when we bring our food in the home, that might be, or maybe it's on your lawn. Maybe, your landscaper's spraying that on your lawn and you're not even aware of it. So just those are things that maybe you would want to focus in as a priority for your own health or the health of your family. And so take what you need to work on, prioritize those things, and then work on one thing at a time, because it's too, we're already overwhelmed. So I found that it's much easier for people to make changes when they make a decision they want to make a change. They prioritize them. They decide what action steps they're going to take, and just start on number 1 and put that on your calendar. So every day you're practicing, switching over from having a pesticide on the lawn, or maybe you're switching over from using plastic to using glass and stainless steel.
Right.
Or maybe you're switching over from using plastic bags to get your vegetables and your fruit at the grocery store to using mesh bags that you can recycle and use over and over. So it's one step at a time. It's a process. You have to be very gentle with yourself. You have to give yourself a lot of positive reinforcement, because even myself, I know these things, but it takes time. I didn't switch over from using plastic to using only glass and stainless steel. It took a couple of years to do that.
Yeah.
So, but it's just being committed, and just, the goal is not perfection. The goal is practice, and just practicing every day to get better and better at our health habits.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Because it is, I remember when I was changing a lot in my life, when I was trying to treat my cancer or heal from it. I remember, um, so I went to a clinic in Mexico, and I remember getting there and they had natural toothpaste and shampoo, and I was like, are you kidding me? I have to change these too? I was like, wow, man, that's a lot. But like you said, progress, or practicing, progress
Yep.
over perfection.
Yep.
It's a lot easier to do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I really appreciate you sharing those tips. And then one last question, which is, I almost forgot. So what have you seen in your practice? Like, like what results can you see? Or it's harder to see results when you're, preventing disease, because you don't have disease to begin with. But what
Right.
are some positive effects that you've seen in the children and families that you've been working with so far? Because I know you're
Right.
kind of getting
I'm
into
still new at it. Well,
yeah.
I can share two things. I can share one with somebody who had cancer and basically was healed from it. Um, and I can share one with somebody who had cancer and then they had a child that they were trying to help.
Mm,
So I had a woman um, about 2 years ago who came in with lymphoma, and I knew that the environment was impacting on our health more than we realized. So I started asking my patients that came in if they had taken an inventory of their environment. And so,
mm,
because we were getting her ready to start her chemo, and she said, like, no, 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 everything's fine. I grew up on a farm, and my husband and I, we live a really good life. And I said, well, how about, any chemicals in your house? No, we're pretty careful about that. Well, how about on your lawn? Any chemicals on your lawn? No, I have a landscaping company who comes and they do the lawn. And then she stood back and she said, well, I'm the one responsible for the weeds in the yard. So every year I put the Roundup on
oh.
the weeds. And I said to her, oh, you've got to stop using that, because we can give you all the chemo that can help your cancer, your lymphoma to get better. But if you keep using the Roundup, it's going to undo, everything that we're trying to accomplish here and you want to accomplish here.
Mm,
And she came in the next time and she told me that she had stopped using the Roundup and she got rid of it. And so 2 years after her treatment, she came back to tell me that, because she originally had a brain tumor and had that resected. She had a surgical
wow.
resection of the brain tumor about a year before she was diagnosed with lymphoma. And she came back and told me that all of her markers were now normal. She
Wow.
looked fabulous. She looked so healthy. She said she was eating clean, and she was, doing some of the like stress management techniques. And she was now helping other cancer patients uh, to have helping them to heal from their cancers and to cope with it better, because
Oh,
she now had a new job where she was helping cancer patients. And I just loved her story, because I thought, you know what, when I had asked her those questions and she reflected,
mm,
not only did she reflect, but she took action steps, and she did eat better. She was doing the stress management. She found a new purpose in her life, and she stopped using the Roundup. And so she
that's
healed.
great.
So that was really positive. Another story I can share that, incorporates a young child is there was a woman that I had worked with who had had breast cancer, and she was also incredibly dedicated to do whatever she could to heal from her breast cancer, because her daughter was only 3 years old, and she wanted more than anything in the world to live and to see her daughter grow up, and to keep her daughter as healthy as possible. So she asked me if there were things that she could do to help keep her daughter healthy. So the main thing that I focus in, especially with young children, is if the parents can live a really healthy life, then I know they're bringing those health habits to their kids.
Mm,
And so I worked with her, and in terms of anything that I could think of that was impacting on her health. And she had made radical changes in her diet. She was eating really well. She was eating a lot of nutrient dense foods. She was even incorporating like miso and mushrooms and lots of vegetables into her diet every day.
mm,
She was exercising. And the thing that was really beautiful is that, with her daughter, I had asked her about their cell phone use. And she told, because with 5G today, there's
yeah.
a lot more radiation, especially when it's downloading the information. So I said to her, make sure that you and your daughter, do not put that cell phone up near your head, near your breast, or in your pelvic area, because that radiation can have health effects on you and your daughter.
Mm.
And she was not aware of that. And so I knew that she was going to take that seriously and make sure that her daughter was very safe around the phone. But that's one thing that I have found, is that because we have a lot of these new technologies, and we don't know a lot yet about some of these technologies, things are being used and people are not aware that some of that can impact on their health. So I think that's something that a lot of parents need to be aware of and spread that information a little bit more. But that, even though this little girl's only 3 years old and I have no idea, what her future holds, I feel really good about the fact that both her mom and dad are committed to living a really healthy life. And, by default, they are helping their daughter, to live a really healthy life. And by giving her that chance when she's 3 years old, that is a gift beyond measure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's really encouraging to hear.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I love to, hear when people, because I think part of it too is taking responsibility for your own health.
Hmm.
And so I love these stories where people really take responsibility. They try to do whatever possible to, maximize their health. And, there's no guarantee in this life, but when we do the best that we can, we certainly give ourselves a much better chance of living a longer, healthier life, and with joy and abundant health. So
Absolutely.
yeah, each
Oh,
step is worth it.
that's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Aurelie. I love your perspective and your positive and calm and gentle spirit. It's very, very nurturing and soothing. Just what we need during times like these, especially.
Yeah, yeah, because I know myself, there's been times, in the last 8 months when I felt a little anxious.
Hmm.
And I just, what really helps me is not only prayer, but also doing Qigong. So I just keep doing Qigong, and, I pray every day, and it helps me tremendously.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Orly, how many people who watch this pray? What can we be praying about for you and your practice?
Um, I would really appreciate any prayers in terms of, um, I'm really asking God to direct me to the best way that I can market myself, so that uh, people are asking for my service,
Mm.
and they are excited about having good health.
Mm.
And I know that I can help them in that direction, and I love to keep people healthy. So, that's what that's the support and the guidance I need right now. And I know that God loves me, and God is doing things to help in that direction. But any support I can get in that direction, I would greatly appreciate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It'll be a joy to share this interview and encourage people to watch it and work with you, because
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is life-saving,
Yeah.
and I just hope that people and pray that people will see it and recognize it for what it is.
Yeah.
Because if I could go back, I would change things about. I mean, I am so incredibly grateful for how things turned out in my life. Praise God that I got, even though I had this terminal, you know, 7 months to live. God healed me, and I have this chance now, and
Hmm.
and to help share information like yours and resources and people like you who
Yep.
can help prevent people from getting to where I was,
Right.
and where many
Exactly.
many people get to.
Yeah. So if people are interested, if they are pregnant, they have young children, adolescents, if they go to www.theletterbwellnessparenting.com, it has my workshops on there. It has my email there. I do consultations. I do educational programs. I'd be happy to help.
Yes, absolutely. That's wonderful. And your email, it's info@bewellnessparenting.com.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I have a Facebook page, Aurelie Cormier's Wellness Parenting. So if you go on the Facebook page, it tells some of my workshops and then just has some helpful tips. I have another little thing called the Wise Mama and Papa Cafe, and
Oh,
that's
that's cute.
just like a theme of the day, you know, a little short 2-minute, 5-minute talk about a particular topic of the week or the day. And so,
That's wonderful. I
yeah.
didn't, that's on your website or Facebook?
It's on my Aurelie Cormier's Wellness Parenting Facebook page.
Oh, okay. I have to make that, somehow pin it to my, so I see it first thing in my newsfeed because I didn't realize that you had that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for all the information you make available. And guys, if you're watching this video, please go work with Aurelie and get your tool belt ready to prevent cancer one step at a time.
Right. Yeah, because we all need a toolbox, right? I need my toolbox, and I'm very thankful for the resources that I have to help in my own life. But I love to help people to stay well. So
Wonderful.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Aurelie, and we will be praying for you. And hopefully, I would love to do this again sometime and maybe talk about a specific topic or a couple other specific things, maybe something new that you discover or that it will be great conversation.
Yeah.
So,
excellent.
all right, have a
Thank
great
you, Bailey. Yes, you have a good weekend too.
weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.